Hello, everyone. Hi there. Good evening to you all and Sabaidi. Welcome to Legacies of War's Thip Khao Talk series. We are super excited for all of you to join us this evening for a special talk with some of our amazing guests. Just to give you all sort of an overview, I want to introduce myself. My name is Aleena Inthaly, and I am the Chief of Staff at Legacies of War. I'm joined tonight by our amazing intern, our executive intern, Anna Pamachan Tan. She's right here as well. Say hi, Anna.
Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, we really could not do it without our amazing interns like Anna. So I'm so happy to have her by my side tonight. The Thip Khao Talk is an opportunity for us to open up more dialogue and spaces for discussion about topics and issues that impact Laotians and Americans due to the aftermath of the secret war in Laos. There are still ongoing issues related to the aftermath of the Vietnam War era, including the largest resettlement of Southeast Asians in US history. We engage with our supporters and communities virtually to convene and participate in these important conversations to keep our work going in solidarity with our partners from different fields, including academia, art and culture, nonprofit organizations, government, public policy, and health. This brings greater awareness to the UXO issue in Laos and Legacies of War's mission, as well as to individuals and communities that are still impacted by the aftermath of the secret war in Laos. Legacies of War was founded in 2004 following the recovery of a set of drawings by bombing survivors in Laos during the US Vietnam War era bombings. The drawings and the history behind them inspired the formation of the only organization solely dedicated to raising awareness about the US Vietnam War era bombings of Laos and the vast amount of unexploded ordnance, also known as UXO, that remains in the country 45 years later. We are now led by our executive director, Sarah Gulab-Jar, working to address the impact of conflict in Laos, including removal of UXO and survivor assistance. I am so happy to introduce our awesome moderator who is he is definitely not a stranger to Legacies of War and the work that we do, Dr. Steve Arounsack. Dr. Steve Arounsack is an award-winning filmmaker and professor. He served as a lead cultural advisor for Walt Disney Animation Studios, specifically Raya and the Last Dragon. I hope you all got to see that wonderful film. This was the studio's first feature film inspired by Southeast Asian cultures. With over 20 years of media experience across production spectrum, his work has been showcased on PBS at film festivals and at national exhibitions. He also directed one of my favorite films, Getting Loud, which you'll also see in his background. Getting Loud is a film that focuses on the Lao and film and art culture currently in the modern age. And it follows some artists in Laos over the span of a decade. So I do highly recommend that people check it out if you can. It's a beautiful storytelling piece and really does showcase, what the new generation of Laotians are doing in country in Laos. He's also been featured on Disney Plus and mentioned by Time Magazine, The Hollywood Reporter, and IGN, among others. Dr. Arounsack is a professor of cultural anthropology of California State University and serves as the director of the Keck Visual Anthropology Lab. Thank you so much again, Dr. Steve Arounsack, for being a part of this special Thip Khao Talk. We are so excited to have you here.
And I wanted to introduce our two honored guests today, Christy and Beatriz, and I'll start off with introducing Christy Innouvong-Thornton. Christy is a Lao Isan American daughter of refugees. She is the founder of Tuk Tuk Box. Yay, thank you for supporting us with all of these wonderful goodies that will make our way into our stomachs soon. And she's also the co-founder of Courageous Kitchen, a food education charity for refugee communities. Her mission is to shape young leaders through culinary education. Awesome. Getting through their hearts, through their stomachs. Beautiful. She also has a background in youth programming, international development, and hospitality. She also studied hospitality management at Brooklyn College and has held several positions in the food industry. In 2017, she launched a social enterprise teaching Thai cooking courses for tourists and began developing a Southeast Asian cookbook. Yay, we need more of those. Her work and recipes have been featured by Bangkok 101 magazine, Travel and Leisure Asia, San Diego Union Tribune, and BuzzFeed. Big names there, great. And she's passionate about seeing and saving the world. Thank you very much. Wonderful to have you. And she has no famous siblings named Tony at all. So sorry I had to throw that one in there. All right, Beatriz Aurelio-Saguin. Beatriz is a daughter of immigrants whose family hails from Jakarta, Indonesia. Awesome. And the Philippines as well. So Beatriz holds a master's in public education, and she completed a master's in global health at Northwestern University, great school, and has graduated from the migration health program at the University of Peace in Costa Rica. She has an extensive background in health policy and law, and has worked on a variety of projects in advocacy for the social determinants of health, which is really important. We're talking about mental health and the holistic approach, very timely. And she's been presented on topics such as child and maternal health at the National School of Public Health in Havana, Cuba, and also in the Philippines and various places, and in just various places that would be receptive to this holistic message of global health. And she's passionate about breaking down barriers, creating economic opportunities, and uplifting communities of color while still being an agent of change for the Southeast Asian community. And we welcome you, Bea. Okay, now we are going to turn it up a bit, and I'm going to hand it over to Anna.
Yes, so between 1964 to 1973, the US carried about 580,000 bombing missions over Laos, dropping the equivalent of a plane load of bombs every 8 minutes, 24 hours a day for 9 years. This adds up to over 2 million tons of bombs, making Laos the most heavily bombed country per capita in history. An estimated of 700,000 people fled from their homes and were forced to start new lives in places such as the US. About 40% of the UXO victims are children who mistaken these bombs as toys and now have to live a long life of physical and emotional scars forever.
Since we were founded, the US funding for the UXO sector in Laos has increased from 1.3 million in 2004 to a historic 40 million in 2021. In 2016, we will never forget that we worked in close partnership with President Obama's team on the issue, and he recognized our founder during his historic trip and committed $90 million over 3 years to go towards UXO survey work and clearance. Right now, I can tell you all that the funding has been allocated and used towards UXO surveying. So we will continue to make sure to increase the funding or sustain at the maintained amount of 40 million or more. We continue to work to ensure that the US makes sure that funding is there until the job is done and aim on increasing funds over time. We also work on issues related to the broader region, including in Vietnam and Cambodia. So I wanted to remind everyone that UXO removal is essential in preventing additional casualties, fulfilling the US responsibility to remove its legacy of ordnance and strengthening relationships with these countries and providing opportunities for communities to use the land productively for farming and for people to be able to walk the earth in safety for future generations to come.
So we're gonna move on straight into this tasting, right, Aleena?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so we're gonna be turning up the heat a little bit, taking a spoonful of specially made sauces by Southeast Asian makers, such as these. I don't know if you can see this. All these they're not disappearing. Because the pain from the sauces won't last very long, but without action, the pain caused by UXO and other remnants of war can last forever. This is the reason why Legacies of War will never stop fighting and push for funds to end this tragic, and we will push for funds to end this tragic legacy. We will carry forth the torch into a new legacy and turn up the heat for change. So as we head into this challenge here, not a challenge, I would say it's just a chat amongst friends, like what we would do around a Thip Khao. And we're gonna be asking some questions as we do this. So as my co-moderator, Aleena will join us. We're gonna be asking some questions and we're gonna be introducing some of these sauces. Christy and Bea will be introducing some of these sauces for us. So
Prepared. I brought my Thip Khao, and I hope
Perfect.
everyone here did too. But of course, we can't have Thip Khao Talk without Thip Khao. I also want to make a quick shout out, but this is actually from Sabaidi Boutique. This beautiful Thip Khao, custom made. So thank you, Sabaidi Boutique, for this.
Yes, that's right, Kamen Noah out there. Shout out.
Yeah. Community.
Okay,
All right.
so spice level number 1, we're gonna let Christy and Bea describe the sauce and we're gonna get right into it. So ladies.
So the first sauce is mac and grill. I feel like a YouTuber to try and make it focus, but it looks like this. I would say think barbecue sauce meets hot sauce with the savory depth of like good tangy acid. So the background of mac and grill is born and raised by a generation of cooks before them who refuged into America after the Vietnam War. This is a brotherhood of cooks who grew up eating and dining traditional Chinese, Vietnamese, Mien, and other Southeast Asian cuisines. So this is our first level, I guess. This is our base. And it's a little thicker than I think other hot sauces, but yeah. If anyone wants to give a smell and like describe it.
It smells smoky, like very barbecue mesquite type of smoke. I like it. All right, I'm gonna put a lot on my plate, and just so the audience knows too, I brought a lot of Lao food here, some lap, some muso, which is sour pork, and some sticky rice, of course.
And Christy, did you have anything to add to this?
This contains honey, tomatoes, mustard, and a variety of spices, it says.
I'm just ready to eat and grateful to be here. So Sabaidi, everyone, I was just showing, I made some of my mom's wings and I sprinkled like kaukua all over the top.
Oh my gosh, that looks so good.
I'm excited. And as Bea mentioned, this is from a California-based Mien American family.
Wow, beautiful.
Family owned.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's see, as you guys are tasting that, we'd love to have your reactions. And what are you all eating it with here? Aleena, you're eating it straight up off a spoon?
Yeah, but I'm also gonna dip my sticky rice in it too. So there's a vehicle. Anna, what about you? What are you eating?
I have tofu.
It's pretty spicy.
No,
Yeah.
I have like a plate full of tofu that I'm just gonna dip it in.
So once everybody gets their first taste of this sauce, we're gonna go to the first question. And I'm just curious to know, what is one dish that brings you closer to your roots/family?
Well, I think for me, that's an easy one. I would say ot lam, which is a beef stew with a bunch of herbs in it. So it's very herbaceous. it's thick in some parts. There's different variations, but I'm Thai Mung Luang. So, we have our own variation. I know there's folks that do it differently, but that's the one dish that brings me all the way back home. Anna, you better say the same thing because
No, I'm gonna say Miang Mung Luang.
Okay, Miang Mung Luang.
Yeah, because it's like one of the first Lao dishes I learned how to make. Like difficult, I would say, like Lao dishes to learn how to make, and it always brings me back to my childhood. Like I always love eating it. So yeah.
And full disclosure, Anna's my niece, so
Yes.
so if she says things, she copies my answers. You'll know why. Go ahead, Christy.
My mouth is on fire already.
I know. I was gonna say that this is the first spice level. I do not recommend taking a whole spoonful of it.
No.
Because
I have my almond milk in my little on here.
Yeah.
I said that right.
It has some iced coffee.
The dish that brings me closer to my roots and my family is probably my mother's saitwa. And, this is probably a very loaded question because everybody has their favorite rendition of saitwa or their favorite recipe, but it's something that every time I visit my mom, we make together. And we finally just got her a sausage stuffer, but for the last 30 years, she's been doing it with the Coke bottle, the traditional way. And one of the things that she told me when I asked her why she still did it that way, she said because everything by hand tastes better. She didn't want to use a machine. So that dish is really significant to me.
Awesome, Bea. After she drinks her.
You caught me in the middle of drinking. So I'm eating all my hot sauces with my vegan chicken nuggets and French fries, and then I have a side of boba in case things get out of hand. But a dish that brings me closer to my roots is called gadu-gadu, which is an Indonesian, I guess you could say it's kind of like a salad, but depending on how your family makes it, there's different things you throw into it. Growing up, I didn't know I was Indonesian. My family, because of war and things that happened in Indonesia, they fled to the Philippines. And so they didn't talk about that history. And my dad's the youngest of 10 siblings. So he didn't even know he was Indonesian until, a couple years ago. But we were eating Indonesian food growing up. And gadu-gadu was one thing that we ate at every party. And we always had potatoes with it. My family's Filipino twist to it was instead of doing kropek, which is the shrimp chips, they put chicharron. So they twisted it in their own way and put the shredded chicharron on top. But I always thought it was unique to my family, and I thought it was I guess a family recipe in a way, because every Filipino party I'd go to, I'd be like, "Where's the gadu-gadu?" But everyone's like, "What is that?" So that's how it brought me closer to my family, because then I got to ask my grandma oh, this must be just for our family. Until recently I learned, it's an Indonesian dish. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really great point, Bea, because food for my family has always been a way that they communicated. Especially with my parents, there are a lot of things I didn't know growing up, like the Secret War. I didn't know about the Secret War. Coming from a Lao family, they just never talked about it. But my mom would leave me little hints here and there, of preparations of food. The first thing that I learned how to make was sticky rice. And she would always complain while she's making the sticky rice, you have to make sure, you wash it really well. When I was a kid, I never got to wash my sticky rice thoroughly because I kept having to run. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't realize that she was kind of reliving her childhood and telling me these little snippets of her life. But it was always through food. And just even, some things where she would be talking about eating insects, because that was the only thing they could eat. Because, my parents weren't able to just go to the store and get food. They were refugees, so they would eat whatever was available. And I didn't really put those pieces together until I started bonding with my parents over food. And I think a lot of Southeast Asian families kind of have similar experiences as well.
Right. So as we transition to the next spice level, I just wanted to finish off that thought by saying that, food is often the way that parents either say they're sorry for something they may have done, because you'll never hear that from them. I'm sorry, but if they make that special dish, maybe they give you a little bit more. That's their way of saying, okay, let's make peace with this. Okay, spice level number 2, Christy and Bear.
All right.
My mouth is burning from level 1.
I know, still like burning from it.
That's the best way to introduce us, when you're on fire.
Yeah.
I have a celery stick to help. And somebody just asked what the mac and grill sauce was good for or good on. I would say literally everything, but think of Southeast Asian barbecue sauce. So that's what it tastes like. So it'd be good on ribs, French fries. I'm eating with chicken. So, okay. So the next one I believe everyone has is called My Mom. And My Mom, MAI, they are a mother-daughter duo living in San Diego, but they are Vietnamese American. And they started this business during the pandemic, and they're kind of blowing up all over SoCal. And this is like a chili oil similar to what we would put like in pho, or like you find at like a Chinese restaurant, but I put it on everything. It has a lot of garlic. So I think that's what sets it apart. So I'll let you all taste test and see what you think.
Chrissy, I'm really scared. Like, this is definitely something you would put on your noodles, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat it straight up because I gotta go all in, y'all.
I think you have to taste the flavor first before you put on anything else. So definitely try it straight up.
I have like a ton of chili on my fry.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, yeah.
Let's see how this goes.
I don't know about doing that like on its own.
I'm gonna do it on its own.
That's really
Okay.
spicy.
Yeah, it's got good flavor. It's got this, I don't know, is there garlic in there? I don't know if
Yeah,
there's
a lot of garlic.
Yeah,
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Ooh, the spice hits you after.
it kind of lingers too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It
I mean, I
has-
really like that one. Yeah, that was good.
It has some sweetness to it, I think.
I wish we could show everybody all the bits and pieces there are in it. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to find them on Instagram, they have a really great page, and they're super sweet and friendly, and we have their story up on our website as well. So one of the things with all of the Southeast Asian makers that we work with, we also feature their story on our website, so you can learn more about them and then order and support these family businesses.
Oh, I accidentally mixed on my plate. I need to clean this up.
Man, I'm like already like sniffling.
Well, this is the issue with doing things live, right? It's messy, but I think that's part of the wonderful organic process of all this. Is like you're gonna get some unexpected reactions.
On natural. I think this one is really good with like noodles or wonton. I mean, I put it on everything, but I would say I definitely love it mostly on noodles, or even like dipping pizza in it.
Ooh, pizza.
Never
So
thought of that.
as many of you all are now that you're grown up and some of you are living on your own and becoming independent, what's the first dish you learned to make on your own, and what significance does it bring? First dish you learned to make on your own.
I'll say the first Lao dish I learned was Thip Khao, not Sen, because I still can't get it right. But that's something that like after school I would come home and there was like a big pot, like I could just smell it, all the ginger and the herbs. And it's just ultimate comfort food. So that's something like my go-to when I'm feeling down or just like, want some comfort food. It's pretty easy if you do it the rice way, not the noodle way.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say you do it the rice way, like the right way? Is that what you said?
No,
That's what I heard too. I was like,
I
yeah.
know there's a wrong way to do it. There's a rice way to do it. Okay.
no
Right.
pun intended, but
Yeah.
I'm not great at rolling the noodles. So I have to buy them or do it like 3 times to get it right. Tony's good at it though. I'll give him that.
Yeah, not that we know who that is, but okay.
No.
Bea?
The first dish I made on my own, it's really simple, but it was my grandma's corned beef omelet. And she made it a certain way where it was like the corned beef would be so crispy from like, I don't know if she deep fried it in the pan and then she would pour the egg on top. And that was always like something I kept trying to replicate after she passed away because I couldn't get it crispy enough until I think a couple years ago when I was like in the middle of undergrad. And I called my dad and I was like, I did it, Dad, I made it. And I found out that my grandma would make that on special occasions for my dad and his siblings, but for his grandkids.
Oh,
Was that? Oh, am I cutting out?
Yeah, just for a second, but I think we're good. You're done.
I'm good now? Okay. Perfect. But yeah, the reason why I should make it on special occasions was because when they fled from Indonesia to the Philippines, they couldn't get a lot of meat. So whenever they were able to get a can of corned beef, my grandma would have to like ration it over a couple days. And so it was crispy because she would have to keep cooking them over and over again. And I thought it was just like, cause she deep fried it, and deep fried is love for grandkids. But yeah, that was my, like one of my prominent memories. And then my dad remembers it really well too. When I asked him yesterday, I was like, what do you remember me calling you up and making? So yeah.
Cool. Aleena or Anna?
I'll let you go first, Anna.
Okay. I would say egg rolls because as a child, I would help like roll it up. And then when I got older, I like finally like learned how to like, actually make the filling and stuff. And I think it's pretty therapeutic for me to just like make 75 egg rolls in like 3 hours. Like all the process. It's pretty fun, but like it has to be like, I really need to de-stress, and then I'll just make egg rolls.
Therapeutic? We could have plenty of therapy if you come over, then, if that's your idea of therapy.
Yeah.
Mail me some egg rolls. I want egg rolls. I love them, but I don't like rolling them. So Anna.
Oh, it's super fun for me.
Please send me some too, Anna. But yeah, I'm just gonna let you all know that I'm gonna go back to the sticky rice because sticky rice for me has a lot of significance, only because like it was the first dish I ever learned, but also because like my mom was very, very harsh on me on perfecting it. It's like whole art. It's like whole process. So I think I carry some of that trauma from like making sticky rice. So now that I make it, it has to be like the perfect temperatures, the perfect conditions, the perfect wash. But what I also wanted to share about sticky rice is that, you know, at Legacies, I sort of think about sticky rice all the time. And this is like something that, you know, I kind of wanted to share in relation to our work because when it comes to advocacy and kind of navigating, you know, the whole structure on, you know, how do you make an issue a priority? How do you get governments to pay attention to you? I'd like to think of all of it as a sticky rice ball, right? Like at Legacies of War, what we do is power mapping. And, you know, we think about it, it's sort of like each person that you kind of come across that you want to tell the story or you want to, you know, kind of drive change. You can think of them as a little sticky rice grain. And the more and more people you tell, the more and more people that you share the story with, you start making a big sticky rice ball. And who doesn't like sticky rice? Sticky rice is delicious. It nourishes you. You know, it really keeps you full, gives you energy. And so that's how I think of the work that we do. It's sort of like we're nourishing communities by seeing every person who we come across as another grain of rice that we can add to our ball. So, you know, it's sort of like every now and then I think about how does my voice matter? What type of power do I have? And the reality is we have more power than we think we do. You know, people ask all the time, like, how did you get President Obama to pay attention to Laos? It's like, we did the power mapping. We made a sticky rice ball. We thought about all the people who know President Obama, start from like, the outside, the little small grain of sticky rice, and then try to mold into this big sticky rice ball. So next time you think about what type of change you want to make and what type of power you have, just think of yourself as a growing sticky rice ball and take a big bite of that.
Wonderful metaphor, Aleena. My specialty is the kai dao, which is the sunny side up eggs.
It's really great with sticky rice.
Right. So we have to all kind of work together. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. So let's cleanse our palate a little bit as we move to the next level up in spice. And this is from the Philippines. Bea, I'm going to give this one to you. So there's a handoff.
Yeah, so it looks like this. Oh, I guess we have the green one. I have the red one, but they're from the same company. So Jablo sauce is the first locally produced small batch Filipino hot sauce in the United States. It's zesty, gingery, and garlic that packs a punch with round. Comforting heat is the answer to the ingredient focused millennials searching the shelves for their local grocery shop to make any food more interesting. So they do have two flavors. I have one of them and y'all have the green one. Yeah, let y'all smell that. The difference between that one and this is this one's smoked and then that one is their original. So the makers of Jablo said that they were trying to find Filipino like flavored hot sauces when they migrated here, but they couldn't find it, so they decided to bottle their own. And I believe they've been around since 2019, so fairly new too.
It smells kind of like green curry.
It does. It's very a lot of lime compared to the rest of the hot sauces that we've had so far.
It's like citrusy.
Let's see. I still have some left from the last level.
You need a spoon, Aleena.
My nose is running still from the first one.
Yeah,
me too.
All right. Here, so everyone knows I'm not cheating.
I'm just dabbing it on my chopstick.
Okay, this one creeps up on you. You like think that it's going to be subtle, and then it just gets hotter and hotter.
Ooh,
Ooh,
same goes for this one.
It's delicious though.
And their mascot is like a little devil with boxing gloves because it packs a punch.
It really does.
I love that. I love that.
Does anyone want to read any of the ingredients?
Let's see. I will read. Looks like there's vinegar, specifically cane vinegar, which is one of my favorite things in the world. Some coconut oil, as well as some Italian chili peppers. Ah, interesting. Jalapenos, Asian teardrop chili peppers, and kosher salt and dried chia seeds.
Ooh.
And this
is healthy. And it has spirulina in there.
Spirulina. There we go.
So it has like 4 different chilies, and I believe they are DC based, or at least East Coast
based, yeah.
Yes. And woman owned.
Awesome.
So, as we're doing this, I'm kind of monitoring the chat. I want to give a shout out to Ova and to all our folks that Skip is out there, Monica.
Hi, everyone.
I know Ova's, so if you're wondering, Ova really loves shoyu. So if you want to show him your pride, buy him some shoyu. Right, Ova? That's for you.
Love it.
Hi, Ova. We'll have to send you a box. Thanks for joining.
Actually, next time we should do one with Ova. You know, he is a great moderator, a great orator. So Ova, this is
Yes,
me
Ova.
passing the baton over to Ova.
Yes, from one trailblazer to the next.
So
This one isn't that spicy to me. What does everyone
yeah,
think?
yeah, I don't know if you know, I don't know if we're increasing in spiciness or if our immunities
I think it's the
grown.
immunities. We're getting more immune to it. Absolutely.
It's
Our
good.
tongue is
Like
getting
all of
numb.
them. It also tastes a little bit like namjim, like the Thai
Mm.
seafood sauce, if you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a big thing of milk tea, just like you, Bea,
Perfect.
to wash all of this down.
And I feel
Mine
like
are
this
all-
is like a little thick too.
Mine are all on a plate running together right now.
Be the final challenge.
Yeah.
All the sauces at once.
Yes. Unlock all of my Southeast Asian warrior powers.
So
Yeah.
as we were growing up, a lot of us have experienced like the refugee camps, because of the transition away from all the fighting and all of the turbulence. And we didn't have a whole lot of chances back then to pick and choose our foods. And it's now that we're living here, there's too many choices, right? But if you could think back to when to more scarce times, if you had to choose one dish for the rest of your life, what would it be and why? One dish, that's all you get in front of you, because for many people in those camps, you don't have a choice. That's it. You just kind of had the same thing, or you had very limited choices. But question is, one dish for the rest of your life, what would it be?
That's
I
a
can start.
hard question.
That's
I
a
can
super
start.
hard one.
I would say tofu for me. Hence, I'm eating
Tofu.
tofu right now. No, because I really do like it, because I like ever since high school I started eating less meat, and then like I transitioned to vegetarian for like a year, and then I went back to pescatarian. It was like my diet is like switching all over the place, but tofu was like is my staple. And like in the beginning of quarantine, when my parents didn't want to go out to like the Asian market, I would make my own tofu.
Oh,
It took a while too, but it was pretty fun. I made fish tofu, which took a long time to make, but I think I got it pretty good.
Wow, thank you, egg roll wrapper.
This is why
Bea?
Anna is also Legacies of War's head chef as well.
That's right.
That's another thing that she does.
Oh yes.
Bea, your one dish.
so mine is a combination of my two heritages, which is I would eat nasi liwet with some dried fish and laing, which is like a taro coconut stew. So you could eat that all together, and I would eat that every day if I could. And nasi liwet is like I guess jasmine rice cooked with like different herbs, but there's coconut in it. So I really love coconut, and I feel like it would be easy for me to source if I were like going to have to make it. So yeah.
Our friend Christy.
I would, if we can do like comprehensive dish, I would probably do sticky rice, saiua, and like fried egg and jjaubong.
Oh,
That's like my go-to like comfort food breakfast.
yeah, those are the staples.
Those
Good.
are the staples. You don't need anything else. Maybe some Maggi.
Aleena?
Okay, this is the thing, right? My dish that I really love though is really unhealthy, but I would eat it even if that meant that I might die of a heart attack. But my mom's kaupun, and for those of you who don't know what kaupun is, it's this coconut curry vermicelli, this amazing dish. I like mine with the base of chicken and then added pig's blood cake, but like lots of pig's blood cake. And I know it sounds extreme, but it's so delicious. and the way my mom makes it is like really fatty. So it's even more, just like mouth watering. But I will eat that until probably like my high cholesterol just like shoots through the roof. It's just so good though. If there was a way to go, that would be the way for me.
So for me, the way I would go is gang no mai.
Oh my gosh, that's healthy, Steve. That would like make your life even longer. Like you would just like extend your life by many years.
Well, yeah, I would take. So it's basically like a bamboo soup stew. It's has a dark broth to it, but the bamboo in it, just the texture and some quail eggs. Throw some quail eggs in there, and I'm set. So that would be my dish into eternity. So let's transition. Let's cleanse the palate a little bit, and let's. I don't know if this is increasing spiciness because I can't tell anymore. But let's move to the next level of spiciness, and we're gonna let Christy take this one.
Christy's in the middle.
Your mouth is full.
Yeah, well, that's why I like to call on you guys. Bea, I got you when you were in half a bowl, so I got to get the same thing.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna have to look up the bio for her, but this is Intu. She is a Thai chef and grew up actually like in Isan, which is northeastern Thailand, going into Laos. But she's a San Francisco-based chef, and she's hosting pop-ups called Into SF, and she's worked for a variety of chefs and restaurants all over California. And so this is her version of geo, and it's a tamarind geo. So tamarind, fish sauce, palm sugar, chili powder, and rice powder, which are probably very familiar flavors to all of us.
Woo!
I smell the fish.
This is actually really, really tasty. Like it's spicy, but there's a lot of good flavor. That tamarind really like, it gives it really nice body.
And I know there's some Filipinos in the audience. This smells like sinigang to me, which is like the tamarind soup. But this is what it reminds me of when I smell it.
It kind of has like a shrimp paste flavor as well.
It does. It smells like kapit.
Yeah.
Like if people don't know what kapit is. Anna, do you want to explain?
It's like fermented fish, and it has a really strong smell. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like brown, and yeah.
Sometimes you dip it with this. It tastes really good with kapun, with some kapit, which I think is shrimp paste. No.
Oh yes, I'm missing it with badek. Oh my gosh. Yes, shrimp paste is kapit.
All right. So the next tough question, we're rising up the heat a little bit. So we have this question. Why is food such an important tool for opening up tough dialogues, especially in the Southeast Asian communities? What are some of your thoughts? I know, Steve, you've been asking us the questions. I want to hear from you.
Well, this is true. So, I think that this one is, it seems like a tough question, but it's actually pretty simple because people are generally in a good mood when their stomachs are happy. So whenever you put food in front of people, the person across the table is now a friend, even if you disagree with some of their viewpoints. Because you're making your stomach happy, you're putting yourselves in the right frame of mind to have tough discussions. Just as a case in example, try to have a discussion with somebody on an empty stomach when both of you are hungry. Good luck. Mm-hmm. So I think food is a pathway to these productive talks, and so I'm all for that.
Absolutely. Something else that kind of came to mind when you were talking about, how food brings people together and kind of lets people drop the walls, or open up, right? I think also food is something that's a common denominator. Sometimes we're talking with someone who might have completely different viewpoints, but at the same time, both of us are interested in eating food. So it sort of shows that we're more similar than we think we are, right? So I think that it kind of provides a common ground for people to see eye to eye and to remember that no matter how tough the dialogue gets, and we're talking about, things like war and violence, like especially like at Legacy, I'll give you all an example. I'm talking about bombs all day, every day. I'm like, bombs, 270 million cluster bombs dropped on Laos. But sometimes I do this over a meal with people. And, sometimes I think about it and I'm like, would they have opened up and listened and heard this story unless it was over food? Or would they have been comfortable? Sometimes I have to talk with an older aunt or someone who has not faced the past and has had trouble, opening up about what has happened to them and their trauma. But once we kind of sit down, make papaya salad together, here and then I'll hear, my aunt being like, oh, also I hid in a cave when I was a teen. And you're so lucky to be able to, do this, and this. And so I think that food is something that makes people feel nostalgic. It makes people feel human. And so that's why I think, sometimes like people don't understand the Laotian community, why we love to talk about food and why we're always there for food all the time. But it's because it's a place of comfort. It's a place of nostalgia. And it's a place that brings joy rather than pain.
Any additional thoughts before we move on to level 5, DEFCON 5? Okay, if there are no other thoughts,
I have something.
Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
I'm gonna say that like food can also be like modified, so then like it kind of symbolizes like the how like the Asian community can also like fuse together in like fusion food. Like especially right now, there's so many like restaurants opening up with like chefs coming up with like their own new recipes with like taking bits and pieces of like different cultures, and like that can definitely be like a starting conversation on how like we are more similar than different from each other as well.
That's right. Great point. Great point. Okay, let's cleanse the palate a little bit. Are we ready for the final test?
All right. I think we should all take like a really big bite of this. Finish strong.
This one has like the chili's whole.
This is our
This is
Lao
scary.
Jeo Som. So this is from Auntie B. I'm sure most of you or a lot of you have seen this in your local grocery store. She's sweetest Lao woman from California. She used to own a printing shop, believe it or not. So she designed and printed her own labels, but she started just cooking for all of her friends and family, and they always loved her Jeo Som, and they wanted to like start buying it from her. So eventually she shut down her printing company and created a Jeo Som company called Auntie B's. And it is like your mama's Jeo Som, maybe even better. I don't want to say that out too loud though.
Them are fighting words, Christy.
I know.
Words.
All right, here we go.
Ooh, it smells
So
good.
Lao woman owned. Smells like home.
Oh my God.
And on our site or our on our website, you can find the links to all of these makers and artisans, and we will make sure to share all their social media. I kind of just want to drink it right out of the bottle.
Yeah, I had
Dare
a,
you.
had a
Yeah, just
Scared,
get
I
a
put a lot
straw,
of chili
Christy.
on
Just get
mine.
a straw and start to
I have a
get it
chopstick.
out.
Ooh.
I had a big mouthful of that. Not gonna lie.
I know
And there's
half my
like,
nugget is chili, so I'm kind of
you
scared.
can see all the chunks of chili and garlic in here.
Bea, does that change the flavor when you put it in and you're fusing it with fast food?
This would be better, I think, on like seafood than this fake chicken nugget.
Okay. Anna?
It's fusing with all my other sauces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just eating it with chicken.
I need to take a little break because I'm on fire right now.
My lips are on fire, so I'm trying not to touch.
I ate like 5 chilies just now. I need some rice. Like these French fries are not doing anything for me.
Man, take my rice, please.
Give me some.
I had to get my almond milk.
Should have like prepared a bowl of rice on the side.
Yeah, I'm actually feeling nothing.
This is nothing to you.
Yeah, these are, in my opinion, they're not that spicy to me, in my opinion.
It's just that superpower. Got that superpower.
Or I have no stomach lining left. It's one of the two.
Probably. That's it. That's
Probably that.
Years of fish sauce and chili, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're not as spicy as my mom would make, but I think that they're great because they could reach a universal palate.
Yes, that's right.
So something that, we would eat at home is probably a lot funkier, spicier, full of bedak, right? But to have a commercially made sauce and kind of appeal to all masses, these are a great introductory. So we will have spicier and a range of different Southeast Asian purveyors featured soon. So
fair point, Christy. Fair point. Yeah, I mean, you will not make money if you cater to my taste. That's guaranteed.
Absolutely. Okay, well, Steve, do you have any other questions for us?
I do. And this one is, we're going to talk about this idea of coming together, right? So we come to places where food resides. And we come there and then we see and we hear things, right? So we're seeing food, but we also hear all these stories that you talked about, Aleena. Stories tend to come out when there's either a circle of food in front of you. So how can we use storytelling around food to raise more awareness about the issues that impact our community today, especially as it relates to war? And that's, storytelling in food or through food. How can we do that in a meaningful and impactful way?
I would want to hear from Christy or Bea. What do y'all think?
I can share a little bit. So Tuk Tuk Box, that's pretty much our mission our slogan is sharing Southeast Asian stories at your doorstep. And so, especially with food, as you all mentioned, it's universal. It's kind of the gateway to these deeper conversations or deeper issues, right? And so we're finding a lot that our stories were, rendered invisible, basically, and that we've been erased from a lot of mainstream, from everything, right? From the history books, as we know, with legacies. I didn't know about it until probably the last 5 or 6 years, the Secret War. My mom didn't talk about it. So from media and film and from history and from mainstream education. And so what we have done, or what we're trying to do, is yes, one, provide economic opportunity by supporting small businesses like the ones we're highlighting today, but also uplifting their voices and sharing their stories on our platform. So, and I'll be honest, we have got some, I don't know, clapback, lashback, whatever you want to call it, haters, because a lot of the communities are so severely traumatized that they don't want to interact with others, and even some of the elders, it's hard for them to talk about, which we all know. But I don't even know if I answered the question, but But basically highlighting, uplifting, providing economic opportunity, providing educational opportunity, awareness, like Legacies does and like you do, Dr. Arounsack. I think in food is a much easier way to get them at the table. You know, we can talk about refugees, we can talk about war, but let's sit down, break these barriers, share a meal. And when you share a meal, you become family.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, I'm not following that, Bea, so go ahead.
Well said, Christy. Yes, our foundation is the storytelling element, because a lot of pieces for things like policy in, the United States and data collection and things like that center around stories too, in the sense of like, if you want to pass a certain policy, sometimes you need a story to bring to the table to make an impact instead of just bringing numbers. And by telling stories, we're not just showing up as numbers here in, the United States or even nationally. But with the story, it kind of also brings the family element, the human element, the piece of like, I'm just like you and we're the same, and we're all humans. Let's find a common ground in that sense. And so we like to talk about food within storytelling too, because food is universal, but also if people don't know our food, how would they know our stories? How would they know who we are? So that's how we kind of want to bring that to the table and make us known, because Southeast Asians, as we all know, in my old line of work in data collection and policy, we're always falling through the cracks. And when we'd ask, do you know what Southeast Asia is? Nobody could tell a story about us. Nobody could point us out. Nobody can see us in the crowd. So that's where the storytelling element comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with both of you all. And, something else that really struck me from what both Christy and Bea shared is that, there's been erasure, right, of Southeast Asians in US history books. And this is something that Legacies of War is really trying to fill in the gaps. We're really trying to make accessible those books, those stories, the artwork, such as the drawings that were found by Fred Bramfman, made by refugees that were experiencing the war in the 60s and 70s. Making sure that all of these materials are there and are present and are repeated. We want to make sure that generations from now, we won't have these same conversations where, the younger generation, Southeast Asian diaspora is still picking up the pieces, trying to find exactly what happened to our ancestors, to our families. And it shouldn't get to that point. So what we're doing right now, even if it is a conversation over a meal, even if it is just, showing the different types of sauces that exist in Southeast Asia, this is all a part of our history. And we are recording this, we are preserving this, and we're making it known to people so they don't forget. They don't forget that, this has happened. They don't forget why Southeast Asians, why Lao, Vietnamese, Hmong, Cambodians are here in the United States because of war, because of conflict. And, for many communities, they didn't have a choice. They didn't have a choice to stay. They didn't have a choice, to not flee. That was taken from them. And so when we think about the Secret War history and what it takes to transform and what's the next phase of healing, we have to continue having these conversations. And if it takes a meal to do that, let's continue to do that. Let's continue to share these sauces. Let's cook up the spice even more and just, make sure that our voices are heard.
I mean, I would just follow up with something really brief and say that food is world history on a plate. If you look at all the food pathways, it traces back to the histories of people, all the interconnectedness that we see in the world. If you look at the food, you follow the food and all the pathways, you'll get the history. So it's really history on a plate.
Absolutely. 100%.
And it's political. Food is political, right? So.
It is. Yeah, it is. And, you know, hopefully another thing that I wanted to pitch, because, you know, we just kicked off the Legacies Library, which is a collection of all these different books, you know, artwork, films that touch on the Secret War that hasn't been like easily accessible by the public. It's free to the public, and we're trying to do this, engage people, sort of like how we're doing with Thip Khao Talks on a virtual platform. But one of the things that I really would love is to include, you know, people who are documenting how food is changing, how food from Laos is adapting, you know, because of the diaspora, right? Like, I just want to know too, like you said, Dr. Arounsack, food is history on a plate. So if we are able to kind of track how it changes over time, maybe we'll kind of understand too how people have adapted, how communities have tried to assimilate, you know, to the societies in which where they are, and that can kind of give more of a greater understanding of what the Southeast Asian community is and how we became the way we are today. You know, for a long time, a lot of people who, there were a lot of people who didn't know what Lao cuisine was. And now it's like, oh, Lao cuisine? It's like, we've always been there. It's just that there wasn't awareness. Like, we've always been there. You know, we might have been like, you know, in the behind like a Thai restaurant or like a Chinese restaurant or something. But, you know, those people who were cooking that food were there. It's just, there wasn't awareness. And so just like our, you know, us raising awareness about the history of the Secret War, we're just trying to make it known that we've always been there. It's not that you just know now, it's that we're now visible.
Thank you for reframing that in a much larger context, and that's so true. Thank you, Aleena. Do we have time for a few questions? I think the interaction part of me, and you know, we want to get that blood going, and just reach out to the crowd, because I've been seeing quite a few comments up there. Do we have time for a few questions?
Yeah, I think
Anna?
so.
Anna, do we have anything that?
Yeah, I put it in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Let's look in the chat.
30 minutes ago.
Oh man.
We're a little late. We're running a
You
little.
to read it, Anna.
Oh man, Steve. Yeah, I think you'll have to read it, Anna, which is okay. We're gonna do that.
Okay. Let's go with the first one. Is the first one from Danae?
Mm-hmm.
Danae asks, just jumping on. So I'm not sure if you've already discussed this, but I find it can be challenging for me when I hear my white friends talking about making or eating Thai or Lao meals that I hadn't heard of before. It makes me feel a little embarrassed for not knowing the dish, but also it's great that they're exploring the cuisine. Curious if anyone has experienced this. Basically, the idea that others may know a little bit more about your culture than makes you feel comfortable. Christy, Bea?
Yes, this has happened to me because in recent years, I've learned I'm Indonesian. And so when people are like, oh, this dish, have you had this? Especially if it's a person who's not Asian, or like their example, someone who was white, they're like, I had this in Bali. Do you know what this is? It's like, well, Bali's a different region from where my family's from, but also great that you know, but I'm still, you know, discovering my own history and background. I know sometimes it can be embarrassing and you're like, well, how come I don't know my own culture? But I like to think about how the pieces that Aleena was talking about, the erasure, the Asians trying to assimilate to the country too, that's part of all of our history. So it's not embarrassing that you don't know, but it's great that you're wanting to know and you want to like learn more about your heritage too. But also remember there were other factors for me, other factors that were in play that made me and my family erase some of that history and not know those pieces or those foods. So yeah.
Oh, very compassionate answer. Christy.
Yeah, this one's very loaded for me, actually, Danae. So thank you for asking. I'm, you know, as I mentioned, Lao American, but I actually don't really speak Lao. And you know, backstory to that, it was because I was raised by my dad's sponsors to come to America. And for a long time, I didn't want to go to Lao parties or interact with anyone who was Lao because of the shame from that. And then I moved to Thailand, and then I learned actually how to speak and cook more Thai than Lao. So now I can understand more of that. And it's still something that I'm struggling with every day, but now I take it in stride and I'm like, I'm unapologetic. And it's okay if I don't know all the dishes or know all the language because I'm learning. And I think most people love to teach you something, right? So if you can sit back and like humble yourself enough to be open to learning, then somebody will be willing to teach you. And then it can be a deeper conversation. Like Bea said, well, what's the history behind that? Why don't you speak Lao? Why didn't you know about your culture?
Right, and this is a very complex question. I'm going to give a shout out to Ova in the chat. He said that identity is complex. And when somebody asks a question like this, Christy, you're right, it is loaded, and it begins to unravel all these layers of our own identity. And we have to really look in the mirror and say, where are we with this? And and just be okay with this lifelong journey of learning, I think. So Aleena and Anna, do you have anything to add to this? Thank you, Christy.
For me, I always think of food as a good teaching moment. I think of it as a tool. It's a way to educate people, I've definitely, people would come up to me and be like, oh, why don't you make papaya salad this way? Or why don't you cook your rice this way? And it's like, there's really, I can't say I'm an expert and my way is the only right way, because it's so complex. Everybody has traveled a different way to get to where they are. Everyone has very extensive history. You might have combined families now where not everybody has the same traditions, but in a way it's like I need to make sure that you understand the history behind what I'm doing. Sometimes, when I was in school, I'd be made fun of all the time, right? For the food that I took to school. And people are like, why are you eating that? And now the same people who made fun of me are like, this is the best thing ever. I'm like, don't you remember back in middle school when you said that was really weird? And so now I just use it as a teaching moment. I'm just like, hey, now you understand, right? My refugee family came here and they really just knew how to utilize eggs and Maggi sauce. And so they ate it with everything. And now this has, now you understand how delicious it is. But I think these are ongoing conversations that need to continue to happen. And, it's always a great moment where you can kind of talk about what is it that makes you who you are? And if that is food, talk about it, right? So I think those are kind of my thoughts. I'm always going to tell someone the story of how I am the way I am by relating to them in that type of way.
Thank you, Aleena. Anna, did you have anything to add?
For me, I feel like my experience was a little bit different because I came to America when I was young, so I felt like my mindset was more of an international person when I was younger. So I didn't really register any people making fun of me, and I was all in my community, where I live, it's mostly white people too, but I didn't really think anybody treated me differently. But when I got to college, I had more Asian American friends, and then I guess the blinds were finally opened that it's really different for most people. People have different experiences, and for me I felt like I was lucky enough to not experience the trauma of people making fun of me, but I definitely still had some in the elementary school, but not to the extent that it made me be ashamed of my culture. And in the other hand, I felt in the majority of my elementary to high school, I was actually more educating people about Lao because I was the only Lao student there. And yeah, so I felt no one knew, so then no one could really pick on me. So then I just told them what I want them to know,
Well, thank you, John, Anna, for teaching all those people. So what we're going to do is we're going to answer this this next question, and then we're going to have Aleena kind of sum it all up and wrap it up. And this next question is a doozy, folks. So this is the hammer here. Monica, thank you for this very important question. Monica asks, I'd love to hear how our panelists are combating the anti-Asian racism and hate crimes. And what can we as what can we as community members do to counter these attacks and flip the narrative? So again, this is this is a pretty heavy question. And I'll give you time to think about it while I stumble through this answer. So I'll be the first person to stumble through it. I would say, for me, from a professor's point of view, I have a sort of a unique responsibility to my students. I can't think of it as solely my point and my perspective alone. I teach in a part of California that's pretty conservative, pretty rural. And I try to always make it a safe space. I know that, there's some success in what I've done that semester when I have some of these folks that maybe don't have a lot of Asian friends come up to me at the end of the semester and say that, hey, I appreciated the way that you were respectful to everyone in the class, regardless of whether or not we agreed with you. And I think that really sets the stage for prolonged communication, because I always think of it as, these students of mine will be in the community much longer than they are in my class. I only have them for a few months. So how do we set this plate for them to have engaged interactions with our Southeast Asian brothers and sisters, and to talk to the themes that we talked about today? Food is one of them. I've invited many of these people to these potlucks that we have, and it's not for the food. I mean, that's just a vehicle to start discussions with older people that they just pass by on the streets, to other students that they wouldn't have interacted if they didn't come to college. So I view it as, a long-term holistic approach as a professor. Now, putting that hat aside, me personally speaking, this is not speaking as a professor or anything, this is speaking as, a father of two Laotian girls, is sometimes I am fearful when they go out. I can't be with them forever. So when I see these young, beautiful girls that are in the chat room, with me now, I think of my daughters. I hope that they are just as, articulate as you. And it's not about being ready to do anything. It's just about being brave enough to take that first step. So you guys give me a lot of hope. And I just really wanted to say thank you to all four of you. I hope my daughters can, rewatch this and kind of glean something from all of you. So thank you.
That gave me like chills. Thank you so much, Dr. Arounsack, for sharing that. And that's really, really like hits the core, because representation matters, and I hope that girls just like your daughters and other people out there who look like all of us in here can know that we're here with you, and we're happy to serve as that beacon of hope, and to share that we can rise and we can get through this, and we can make sure that our stories, our narratives, the power behind them are utilized in a way that will make the world see our importance and how powerful we can be as a community. I struggle with this a lot, because a lot of people ask, like, legacies of war, how do we make ourselves more visible? How do we get out there and speak out against violence and everything that's happening, and all the racism against Asians? And being an organization that is led solely by a Laotian American woman, and majority of our team are Southeast Asian, you know, it's sort of our existence came into place to disrupt a system. Legacies of War was founded to disrupt a racist structure. We were the first organization to say Laos is here, and the violence that happened in Laos came from this structure, came from this system. So I just want everyone to know that we will not stop working at Legacies to make sure that this history is heard and these narratives are protected, and that the people behind these narratives are the ones telling the narrative. You know, that the people who have survived, the people who have endured, the people who have remained resilient continue to lead these conversations. So, you know, this is why this work is so important. This is why we want to invest in people like Anna, you know, and our young leaders who are going to carry on this conversation for years to come. This is the time now, and people are waking up. So I just want everyone to know that this is a time to feel empowered and to speak out and to remain true to what you believe in.
Thanks, Aleena. Beautiful answer. Anna, Christy, Bea.
I guess with this question, I'm still also trying to navigate different ways that I can, you know, counter all the things that are happening. So one of the reasons why Christy and I started Tuk Tuk Box, well, my reason is I used to work in a lot of policy, working with legislators and data collection, and I found that we were always invisible, and I was always trying to scream from everywhere, like, we're right here, don't forget about Southeast Asians. But it was always hard for me to be in those spaces where I was like hired or contracted to advocate for another community when my own community wasn't being represented. And so a lot of that was kind of things that I would have to go up against in whenever I'd meet with a legislator or I'd talk about a policy and present like a new policy to be drafted or things like that. And so part of that is what I found is advice for the community is don't leave it up to just the organizers. Organizers have been organizing tirelessly, as some of us have been talking about for years. And a lot of people are like, how can I get involved? How can I get involved? And getting involved is not just, you know, one event that you show up to. It's a long road and struggle with us walking hand in hand with organizers. So that's what community members can do to kind of flip the narrative, counter these attacks. One way is to get involved in like civic engagement. So there's different pieces within, you know, here in the United States, different things that you can get involved in, like public charge, learning about what that means, learning about how do bills become law and what do citizens play in doing that. So that's kind of a way to kind of get a little bit more involved and not just having us be represented or being the representation for, you know, all of us in the community. Because in spaces like when you meet with legislators or you meet with different folks who are community leaders who are making these decisions, they want to see someone that goes with the story you're telling. Because without that person there, it's like hearsay and they read it off, or an intern will come in and talk with you. Because I've done that many times when I worked for the legislation. So that's a way for you to get involved. That's a way for you. It's not, you know, full investment, but it could be, you know, writing letters to your Congress member, your city council member, or showing up when the census is being counted. And you could go around and say like, we need Southeast Asians to be seen on the ballot on this and that. And just being the representation that we need, and not just relying on like the four or five of us, you know, that are doing this work out here. And how can we get Tuk Tuk Box out there more? I would say share, like, subscribe, like a YouTuber. Yeah, and I'll pass it over to Christy.
Wonderful answer about agency and flipping the power dynamics. Yeah. Christy.
Oh, those are hard to follow. Like my mouth is burning over here, my water, my nose is running, my eyes are tearing up. Like, I think, yeah, amazing answers, both of you. Thank you for sharing. And as you know, Bea mentioned, on a more policy and advocacy level, I would say on a more grassroots level, or more just, you know, community level with our own families and friends, like check in on people, you know, check on people's mental health. Number one, we're still in a global pandemic, but also we're all dealing with years of other trauma, right? And one thing that Tuk Tuk Box is trying to do, because I'm really a big believer in like thoughts become things, and, you know, manifesting words and the power of words. So all this stop Asian hate rhetoric was going around, but I'm trying to reframe it by saying spread Asian joy. So what we're doing is highlighting different Asian business owners or friends, and supporting Asian businesses. So doing whatever we can to uplift and to flip the narrative in that sense. Like, instead of continuing the negativity and saying, stop the hate, we're going to say, spread the joy, spread the love. How can we support these communities? One way is your dollars, you know, by donating to legacies, by donating to Tuk Tuk, by buying products, supporting the ecosystem. And then, you know, I think those are just a few tangible things that I would say.
Thank you, Christy. Anna, do you have anything to add?
Yes, so my college is like mostly white, and it's 4% Asian American, and we felt like the Asian community is like, it has the responsibility of educating everybody else on our history, because there are no like Asian American studies or any like really any courses except for one on like Asian American or Asia in general. And I feel like we are really burnt out from trying to like advocate for like our community, while also like being a student and like having to like do our own work as well. And we feel like we need like to have more schools like being more having the priority of getting more like ethnic classes, and having that to teach like the people at school as well, because they are the next generation that like is going to go to the workforce, and they're going to continue like the system. If like we need to try to stop it like while we're still young, and like not continue this like white supremacy narrative, and just like furthermore educating like what Aleena says about Legacies Library, like that's also a good way. But we also need to like have like find a way to like get it more heard, because students are not gonna like try to find outside resources if like they're they have like a boatload of like work they have to do like for school as well.
Thank you, Anna. I'm going to hand it over to Aleena. Go ahead, Aleena.
All right, everyone. I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, just want to thank our amazing panelists that came and joined us today. I kind of want to just do a quick wrap up, because I know we're running on the time, and I wish we could talk about this forever. We're going to have to do a part 2. But I just want to say quick calls to action that you can help out legacies right away. One, you know, we do have some pieces of legislation that are moving right now. We're working with Senator Baldwin's team to reintroduce the Legacies of War Recognition and Removal Act, and we need bipartisan support. So if you know, in your state, if you want to reach out to your senator to get them to co-lead this bill, please reach out to us, and we'll drop the links of who you can reach out to in the comment section, or just Aleena at legaciesoFwar.org. We need your support in that and writing to your congressional leaders. Second, take out your phones right now. I know a lot of you are watching this on your phones. Follow us at Legacies of War. Super easy. Just like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. We will keep you updated, and we need every single person in this village, ecosystem, family. We're gonna be family. It's family right here, to help us. This is a community effort, and it takes every single one of us in every city in the U.S. to get Congress to listen up. And I just wanted to reiterate, Legacies of War does not receive a single dollar from the $40 million that we're able to advocate for. No money from that amount goes to Legacies of War. It goes directly to on-the-ground organizations that are clearing unexploded ordnance and providing mine risk education and survivor assistance. So we need every help. One of the things you can sign up for is our Lombong Circle, right in time for Lao New Year. You know, what better way than to join us in the Lombong dance and commit and pledge $10. I'm telling you, it's as little as $10 a month, a quarter, a year, to really dedicate your time to make sure that we can get the job done. And we can do it together. And right here, this community right here, I know we can get there. We can see Laos clear bombs within our lifetime. We just need everyone there. So again, I want to thank every single one of you. Dr. Steve Arounsack, you're an amazing, amazing, mentor, friend. We love you so much. Thank you, Christy and Bea, for spending time with us today at the Tuk Tuk Box, Thip Khao Talk with Legacies of War, and of course, our beautiful intern, Anna. We hope to see you at the next one. And until then, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, because there's more to come. We have a Tuk Tuk Box and Legacies of War collaboration that we'll be announcing next week. And we want you all to be a part of that as well. Thank you all so much and have a good night.